Can you solve all these Class 10 English Supplementary, Chapter 5 Fritz without feet questions? Who was tricky? Well done. A dog is the right choice. Who is Hodkin? Smart move. Gardener is an accurate answer. Griffin was a correct response. Scientist is the most accurate answer. Sherry is a dash. Well picked. Dog is the correct answer. What was Griffin? You're right. Scientist is the correct answer. Synonym of nuisance. Nicely done. Troublesome is a solid answer. Meaning of passably. Smart pick. Tolerably is the correct choice. Meaning chuckled of. Clear logic. Your choice laughed secretly is sound. Which month was it? Solid response. January is a valid choice. Griffin becomes dash. Excellent. Invisible is a brilliant choice. The story happened in. Good thinking. London is the right answer. The word quickly is a. Bravo. Adverb is the answer. Where did he go next? Nice selection. Theater store is the correct and valid answer. The scientist was both. Correct. Brilliant and lawless is the right answer. How old was Harry Singh? You chose 15 years old, and it is correct. Where is the story set? Valid point. London is true. Where did he come from? Great thinking. Reading is the right choice. James Herriot is a dash. Exactly. Veterinary surgeon makes sense. What was Horace fond of? Sharp thinking. Books is the right choice. Who came to meet Ausable? Great job. Fowler is the accurate answer. Where did Richard grow up? Right again. Pennsylvania is a valid answer. Where was Ausable staying? Nice work. You chose French Hotel, and it is correct. Where is Drury Lane located? Right choice. Center of theater world is the best answer. What did Richard's dad do? Excellent choice. He was dead is the right answer. Griffin was a dash person. Good job. Lawless works well here. How old was the thief boy? You got it. Your choice 15 years is right. The author of the story is. Strong choice. H.G. Wells is the right answer. Where did he graduate from? Perfect. Harvard is the correct choice. What was Bolly's real name? Well reasoned. Ayeka is the correct choice. How much money did he steal? On track. 600 is the correct answer. Horace Danby did the job of. Clear logic. Your choice-making locks is sound. What does Horace do in jail? Smart move. Assistant librarian is an accurate answer. What was Fowler's profession? Bravo. Writer is the answer. Who were the boys following? Smart pick. A scientist is the correct choice. What type of man was Griffin?
Right again. Both and is a valid answer.
What was Tricky's main fault?
You got it. Your choice greed is right. What type of writer was Anil?
You're right. Struggling writer is the correct answer. What is meaning of eccentric?
Great thinking. All of the above is the right choice.
What was the constable's name? Well reasoned. Mr. Jaffers is the correct choice. What did the boy ask Anil for?
You chose to employ him, and it is correct.
Who was the village constable? Well picked. Jaffers is the correct answer. Who knocked at Ozabel's door? Perfect. The waiter is the correct choice. The scientist was always Dash. Good job. Quick-tempered works well here. From the store, he went to Dash. Correct response. A theatrical company is the most accurate answer. What was Ozabel's profession? On track. Secret agent is the correct answer. Where was the safe in the room? Nicely done. Behind a cheap painting is a solid answer. What was easier said than done? Exactly. To talk to him makes sense. What did Griffin do for revenge?
Valid point. Burned house is true.
Where does the story take place? Great job. London is the accurate answer. Name Richard's college roommate. Excellent. John is a brilliant choice.
Fowler was Dash to meet Ozabel.
Correct. Disappointed is the right answer. The thief introduced himself as. Excellent choice. Sings Day is the right answer. Name the constable in the story. Nice selection. Mr. Jaffers is the correct and valid answer. It is easy to rob a careless man. Well done. B false is the right choice.
How did Griffin take his revenge?
Good thinking. Burn the house is the right answer. Dash is the blueprint for life. Nice work. You chose dinner and it is correct. Who is the author of this lesson? Right choice. H.G. Wells is the best answer.
Who is protagonist of the lesson?
Sharp thinking. Griffin is the right choice.
How often did he change his name?
Strong choice. Every month is the right answer. At Iping, where did Griffin stay?
Solid response.
In the inn is a valid choice. Who is the author of this chapter? Well done. H.G. Wells is the right choice. What is the meaning of scrimmage? Perfect. Fight is the correct choice. What was the name of the scientist? Well reasoned. Griffin is the correct choice. He was leaving his imprints in Dash. Bravo. London is the answer. What qualities did Richard possess? Excellent choice. All of them is the right answer. Which book did his mother give him? Excellent. Travels of Monarch X is a brilliant choice. What was the occupation of Griffin? Well picked. Scientist is the correct answer. The Midnight Visitor is penned by.
Exactly. Robert Arthur makes sense.
In the store, Griffin slept on Dash. Smart move. A pile of quilts is an accurate answer.
What did Bishamba demand as dowry? Valid point. 5,000 rupees is true.
Griffin did a theft at whose house? Right choice. Clergyman is the best answer. Where do all these incidents happen? On track. London is the correct answer. What did Mrs. Hall termed Griffin as? Strong choice. Eccentric is the right answer. Whose house did Griffin set on fire? You're right. The landlord is the correct answer. What story Ozable cocked up to Max? Nicely done. About a balcony is a solid answer. Who reported burglary to the police? Clear logic. Your choice, clergyman, is sound. How has the narrator described an ill? Good job. All of the above works well here. Griffin stole from the house of Dash. Correct response. A clergyman is the most accurate answer. Who gave himself a false name bill? Nice selection. Oliver Luckins is the correct and valid answer. Where did he find comfort in London? Great job. A big store is the accurate answer. What is the meaning of distraught? You chose upset. And it is correct. Griffin had discovered how to become.
Good thinking. Invisible is the right answer.
Horace Danby was about and dash years old. Solid response. 50 is a valid choice.
What was he fond of in his childhood?
Correct. Collecting things is the right answer. Anil lived in a room in a shop named. Nice work. You chose Jamna Sweet Shop and it is correct. What is the name of the veterinarian? Great thinking. Mr. Harriet is the right choice. Richard Ebright's journey started with. Smart pick. Butterflies is the correct choice. Mr. Jaffers caught Griffin effortlessly. Sharp thinking. False is the right choice. What is the meaning of bewildered? Right again. All of the above is a valid answer. Who do you blame for Tricky's illness? You got it. Your choice, Mrs. Pumphrey, is right. Name a bright social science teacher. Well reasoned. Mr. Wyherer is the correct choice. How much money did Anil bring one day? You got it. Your choice 600 rupees is right. To what did author compare Tricky with? Well done. Bloated sausage is the right choice. Is the narrator as rich as Mr. Pumphrey? Great job. No is the accurate answer. Who said? Was a triumph of surgery. Correct. Mrs. Pumphrey is the right answer. Who were following the muddy footprints? On track. 2 boys is the correct answer. Did Anil say anything about the robbery? Good job. No works well here. What do you mean by the word hysterics? Right choice. An exaggerated reaction is the best answer.
Which butterflies were not eaten by birds? Smart pick. Monarch is the correct choice. Dash became alive in the room of Griffin. Correct response. A chair is the most accurate answer. What did he collect during his childhood? Well picked. All of the above is the correct answer. Did Harry get away on the Lucknow Express? Clear logic. Your choice no is sound. What is he a fairly successful hand at? Perfect. Stealing is the correct choice. Griffin wore bandages to outline his dash. You're right. Face is the correct answer. Why was it a bad time to wander in London? Right again. Both 1 and 2 is a valid answer. To escape the cold, Griffin went into dash. Nicely done. A London store is a solid answer. Max entered Orzabel's room through the dash. Great thinking. Main door is the right choice. How did Griffin get away from the landlord? Excellent. Removing cloths is a brilliant choice. He became invisible by taking out his shoes. Nice work. You chose false and it is correct. Why did Griffin get into a big London store? Smart move. For warmth is an accurate answer. What groundbreaking research did Ebright do? Valid point. Working of Dina is true. Griffin's body became as transparent as Dash. Bravo! Glass is the answer. I think I know a cure for you. Who is? Good thinking. Mr. Harriet is the right answer. Name of the constable mentioned in the story. Nice selection. Mr. Jaffers is the correct and valid answer. What was the name of the landlord's wife name? Exactly. Mrs. Hall makes sense. Which of the following traits describes Anil? You chose easygoing and kind, and it is correct. The scientist took a train to the village of. Solid response. Aping is a valid choice. The word in the thief story refers to. Sharp thinking. The thief is the right choice. Where was the theatrical company shop situated?
Excellent choice. Dye Lane is the right answer.
What did the invisible man take from the store?
Strong choice. All of the above is the right answer.
What was Anil doing when the thief boy met him?
Perfect. Watching a wrestling match is the correct choice.
What did he do when he saw the store assistants? Smart move. Tried to run away is an accurate answer. How did Mr. Loisel come to possess 18,000 francs? Well done. He inherited it is the right choice. How much is the replacement necklace valued for? You got it. Your choice 40,000 francs is right. His landlord disliked him and tried to dash the him. You're right. Eject is the correct answer.
Griffin was a brilliant scientist, but was rather.
Correct. Lawless is the right answer. For what did Griffin enter the big London store? Nice selection. For warmth is the correct and valid answer. In the hotel in Iping, Griffin booked dash rooms. Bravo. 2 is the answer. How many gold spots were there on a monarch pupa? Smart pick. 12 is the correct choice. Where is the center of the theater world located? Well reasoned. Drury Lane is the correct choice. What time was it when Griffin got into the store? Excellent. Closing time is a brilliant choice. The Invisible Man was leaving his imprints in Dash. Exactly. London makes sense. Ausable was brought to Paris 20 years ago from. Right choice. Boston is the best answer. The shop of the theatrical company was situated at. Excellent choice. Drury Lane is the right answer. What suggests that Griffin was a homeless wanderer? Right again. All of the above is a valid answer. Faith and compassion can change a thief into a dash. Correct response. Gentleman is the most accurate answer. Who is the writer of the chapter The Thief Story?
On track. Ruskin Bond is the correct answer.
Griffin found himself invisible but naked in Chile. Clear logic. Your choice, January Air, is sound. Who is the narrator of the story The Thief Story? Sharp thinking. Singh's Day is the right choice. Who called the incident an extraordinary affair? Solid response. Clergyman is a valid choice. What was the piece of evidence against Horace Danby? Good job. His fingerprints works well here. A Bright's 8th grade project experiment resulted in. Great job.
A failure is the accurate answer.
Mrs. Hall is superstitious owner of the On at Dash Inn. Good thinking. Iping is the right answer. Harry Singh wanted to catch the Dash Express at 10:30. You chose Lucknow Express, and it is correct. Who is the guest in the story, The Midnight Visitor? Valid point. Fowler is true. What was the name of the shop above which Anil lived? Nice work. You chose Jumna Sweet Shop, and it is correct.
Griffin decided to slip into a London store for warmth. Nicely done. True is a solid answer.
The meaning of the phrase fits, and starts means dash. Well picked. Occasionally is the correct answer. At what age did he invent the theory on how cells work? Great thinking. 22 is the right choice. The scientist was always dash. Now he became furious. Strong choice. None of the above is the right answer. Who is the author of the story? Footprints Without Feet. Nicely done. H.G. Wells is a solid answer. I think I know a cure for you. What is the cure here? Nice selection. Controlling Tricky's diet is the correct and valid answer. The thief was dash years but was a fairly successful hand. Great thinking. 15 is the right choice. Who does I refer to in the story? A triumph of surgery. Excellent. James Herriot is a brilliant choice. Griffin discovered a medicine that could make his body dash. Exactly. Invisible makes sense. Who is the writer of the story? The Making of a Scientist. Sharp thinking. Robert W. Peterson is the right choice. What was Harriet's feeling when he saw Tricky's appearance? Correct. Shocked is the right answer. A queer way to earn money. What does the word queer mean? Excellent choice. Unconventional is the right answer. What extraordinary event happened with Mrs. Hall's furniture? Correct response. The furniture attacked her is the most accurate answer. According to Mrs. Hall, what type of a scientist was her guest? Great job. Eccentric is the accurate answer. Who did he write to get an idea for a real science experiment? Good thinking. Dr. Frederica Urquhart is the right answer. What time of the year was it when Griffin was wandering around? You got it. Your choice, Midwinter, is right. When Tricky was ill, whom did Mrs. Pumphrey make a frantic call? You're right. James Herriot is the correct answer. The dogs at the clinic took no interest in Tricky because he was. Solid response. Dull and boring is a valid choice. Which of the following words is closest to the meaning to homage? Well done. Honor is the right choice. What did he realize was necessary for winning a prize at the fair? Bravo. Experiment is the answer. Mr. Jaffers is a dash who could not arrest the invisible scientist. Right choice. Policeman is the best answer. Which butterflies copied monarchs to prevent being eaten by birds? Well reasoned. Viceroy is the correct choice. How many species of butterflies had he collected till 2nd grade? Smart pick. 25 is the correct choice. In which class was Ebright when he lost at the county science fair? Strong choice. Sen is the right answer. My poor mother used to sit in that chair. She moaned. Who said this? Good job. Mrs. Hall works well here. If borrow, lend, then pick the odd pair from the options given below. Perfect. Hop. Skip is the correct choice. He wore bandages around his forehead, dark glasses and a false nose. Valid point. True is true. What could only prove the presence of Griffin after getting invisible? Clear logic. Your choice, Mud, is sound. Brilliant scientist though he was, Griffin was rather a person. Well picked. Lawless is the correct answer. How did you find the scientist of the story? Footprints without feet. On track. Eccentric is the correct answer. The feeling among the neighbors was that the trouble was caused due to. You chose witchcraft, and it is correct. When did he find the cause of a viral disease common among caterpillars? Nice work. You chose in the 8th grade, and it is correct. Clergyman and his wife peeped in the room, found none, and decided to dash. Right again. Investigate is a valid answer. Find the adjective. Barefooted man was moving on the steps of a house. Smart move. Barefooted is an accurate answer. A queer way to earn money. A dash. What is the meaning of the word queer?
Bravo! Strange is the answer.
Who was the headless, invisible man in the story Footprints Without Feet? Nice selection. Griffin the scientist is the correct and valid answer. It was his fascination for Dash that opened the world of science to him. Perfect. Butterflies is the correct choice. How did the clergyman react when he found the room empty after the burglary? Nice work. You chose he was amazed, and it is correct. Griffin left his muddy footprints on the steps of a house in the middle of a dash. Strong choice. London is the right answer. According to Ebright, what was required for winning a prize in the science fair? Great job. Real experiment is the accurate answer. I knew that once I become Dash, there would be no limit to what I could achieve.
Sharp thinking. An educated man is the right choice.
The two boys started in surprise at the fresh, muddy imprints of a pair of Dash. Correct response. Bare feet is the most accurate answer. Griffin swallowed certain rare drugs and his body became as Dash as a sheet of glass. You got it. Your choice transparent is right. The ghost in the room, as in the chapter Footprints Without Feet, was in reality Dash. Well picked. Griffin is the correct answer. Was the police able to catch the headless man in the story Footprints Without Feet? On track. No is the correct answer. Do you think Griffin's acts in the chapter Footprints Without Feet are justifiable? Excellent choice. No is the right answer. After making a theft in the shop of a theatrical company, where did Griffin decide to go? You're right. Aping Village is the correct answer. When he saw a couple of them, he decided to run away from the shop. Who are they? In the lines? Exactly. Shop assistants makes sense. How, according to the narrator, would Anil feel upon finding out that he had stolen 600 rupees? You chose sad, and it is correct. Suspicion grew even stronger when he suddenly produced some ready Dash. Correct. Cash is the right answer. Do you consider Griffin's discovery in the chapter Footprints Without Feet could be a real one? Excellent. Not at all is a brilliant choice. As a layman, do you think a human body can become invisible, as in the story Footprints Without Feet? Clear logic. Your choice no is sound. The constable Dash came to arrest the stranger in Mrs. Hall's inn in the chapter Footprints Without Feet. Oh.
Great thinking. Jaffers is the right choice.
Who did the neighbors hold responsible for all the happenings in the room in the chapter Footprints Without Feet? Right choice. Griffin the scientist is the best answer. What was Lencho hoping for? Right again. Rain is a valid answer. Tricky was playing with the other dogs during its first day at the hospital. State whether this statement is true or false.
Nicely done. False is a solid answer.
Dash, he is ill. He cannot come. Smart pick. As is the correct choice.
Richard Ebright has received the Cyril Scholar Award and the Sharing Plough Award for Biodiversity and Molecular Biology.
Well reasoned. False is the correct choice. Several attempts a dash been made. Valid point. Have is true.
Who is the author of the chapter?
Good thinking. G. Alfentis is the right answer.
Who did Lencho write the letter to?
Smart move. None of the above is an accurate answer. Joey the Dash from the vacation just now. Good job. Has returned works well here.
Joshua with his members dash really well.
Well done. Sings is the right choice.
Every boy and girl dash in the class today.
Solid response. Is present is a valid choice. A number of cases dash reported in the area. Well reasoned. Have been is the correct choice. Rohan dash the movie before he read the review. Exactly. Had watched makes sense. She along with her friends dash taking the exam. Nicely done. R is a solid answer. Not only he dash, his father was also present in the ceremony.
Correct. But is the right answer? Which literary device has been used in They Are New Coins?
Sharp thinking. Metaphor is the right choice.
I'm out of practice, and if I don't take the money, he'll only waste it on his friends. After all, he doesn't even pay me. Here out of practice refers to dash.
Bravo. The act of robbing is the answer.
The neighbors thought it was witchcraft. This tells us that neighbors were.
Right choice. Superstitious is the best answer.
What is the most likely meaning of refinement as it is used in this sentence? His refinement was obvious when he stood to open the door and help the elderly woman find her seat in the dining room.
Right again. Politeness and good manners is a valid answer. Pick the option that best describes how Mrs. Hall must be feeling at the moment described in the extract. Valid point. Stunned and agitated is true.
How you will get all these quiz questions in PDF books format?
Smart pick. Contact Narayan Changdar on Facebook is the correct choice.